In times of crisis,
It's been a nightmare.
what you need is accurate,
COVID-19.
up-to-date, and in-depth information.
This virus will be with us for a long time.
And in this most challenging time, when the whole world is being ravaged by the most frightening pandemic, there is no easier way to stay informed than to stay home.
Hello everyone.
Welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight.
And stay with us. Thai PBS World. We bring Thailand to the world.
Very good evening and welcome to our 7 o'clock news, Thai PBS World Tonight. I am Natha Gomonwadin.
And Thep Chai Yong. So tonight we have both good and not so good news, Kunata. The good news is that according to the Secretary General of the National Security Council, who probably has the loudest voice in the room, all the stringent shutdown measures should be lifted come July. That means that we'll have to live under the state of emergency, the curfews for another month in June this year. And so that's certainly a piece of good news for everyone. But what is the not so good news?
Yeah. The new case of infection today has risen to double digit for the first time in nearly a month.
Yeah.
So that's not quite good news.
Yeah.
But please stay tuned because towards the end of the program, we also have special social business show for you, Kun Thep Chai, because right now we are like trying to say that we are toward the end of COVID-19.
That's right, yeah.
But whether we will see the new world, that's
right.
still a big question.
Now we have been told since the outbreak of the coronavirus that we have a new world waiting for us, right? And so what is the new world? There's a big
Yes.
question mark, and how we will live in it. Because we are if we're talking about new world, that means that we have an old world, right? That we have to talk about
Yeah.
too. So the old world that we are talking about is something that the people who believe in social enterprising see as the world full of social and economic inequalities, a world full of climate change reaching the catastrophic level, the world that we certainly would want to go back to. So the challenge before us now is how we can design the new world.
Yes.
So this is what we are going to listen to tonight.
Yeah.
We have three very prominent speakers to share their ideas and their inspirations. Yeah.
Yes, especially Professor Muhammad Yunus will be joining the social business show tonight. So please stay tuned with us to listen to his wisdom, how we can all be doers and we can change the whole world at the point of no going back to the world before COVID-19. But let's start with not so good news first, Kun Thep Chai. The new case of infection today is 11, so it's the double digit number the first time round in about a month or so. And today, Dr. Taweesin Wisanuyotin, spokesperson of the COVID-19 Situation Administration, has explained that the 11 new cases are all imported cases. They are Thai who returned from Kuwait, from Qatar, and from India. So that's the 11 new cases. From the first one, an asymptomatic woman currently quarantined at a facility in Samut Prakan after arriving from India tested positive for coronavirus. And of 5 males, mother and a maid who were all working in Qatar and tested positive on arrival in Thailand. Only 3 had symptoms of infection. Another 4 arriving on May 14 from Kuwait tested positive for the virus a couple of days after developing a fever and insomnia. So that's the all cases of 11 new cases. And today, Dr. Taweesin also warned that they do not want Thailand to repeat the same mistake that Singapore has been facing with second wave of coronavirus.
Yeah. It's certain that most people are looking forward to a new round of easing up of the restrictions that have been enforced for the past 2 months. But we have another few more months to go. I believe that we still need to put up with all these stringent measures to some degree. But if we listen to the Secretary General of the National Security Council, General Somsak Rungsita, today, there's a strong likelihood that we may not have to put up with all these stringent measures much longer.
Yeah, that's good news, isn't it?
That's certainly, because starting July, according to him, most of the stringent measures will be gone. Of course, the most important of all is the state of emergency. And with it, that will go with it, certainly will be the curfew, because the curfew is possible only when there's a state of emergency. So if the state of emergency goes, the curfew will also go. So that's the month of July. So, and with the absence of the state of emergency and curfew, it means that the international travel will also resume.
Yes.
So more or less in July, we can see the normality of the country once again. So that certainly is a big piece of comforting news for many people who are looking forward to a more relaxed atmosphere.
So let's take a look at the outline proposed by National Council Chief when he said the outline of easing of the lockdown, which should happen on the 1st of July. The first one is shorter curfew hours.
Yeah. This is for the month of June, which that is only a few days away. So this will be the third phase of the easing of the shutdown measures, starting of course with Kunathai just mentioned shorter curfew hours.
Yes.
And the most likely outcome will be an hour shorter, not more than that.
Yeah.
Currently, the curfew hours are between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., right? So the proposal is for the curfew hours to be shortened. Instead of ending at 4 a.m., it will end at 3 a.m.
We are not quite sure about the specific.
That's a
of
proposal.
shortening.
Yeah, that's a proposal from many quarters.
Yes.
So anyway, I mean, shorter in any way, in any form, would be better for many people anyway. Yeah.
Okay. And the second outline is to have longer hours and more business opening for shopping malls. So that would be good news for activities that can happen in shopping malls.
Because if you go to any shopping malls now, even though they are more or less open, not all the outlets inside the malls are open, right?
Yeah.
There are still many shops in the malls that still stay closed because they don't have enough customers and they're not ready to adopt these anti-COVID-19 measures.
That's right. Like, for example, fitness center in department store cannot reopen at this moment. So we have to wait until further phase of restriction. And more sports activities will be permitted as well in the third phase of easing restrictions.
Right. Especially sports practices, I think very important because Thai athletes and sportsmen are gearing up for major events in the near future. So they need to practice, but they have not been able to do so in the past few months. So the good news for them that finally they can go back to their practices.
Yeah. And the last proposal is easing of interprovincial travel. This one we know that the Minister of Tourism and Sports has proposed for more traveling inter-provinces.
So this is the plan for easing up the measures for June, right? Which will involve the third and the fourth phases of the relaxation of the restrictions. But of course, as we mentioned earlier, come July, things will be much brighter for most people anyway, because all the restrictions are most likely to be lifted.
Yes.
In fact, the pressure for the government to end the state of emergency and the curfew has been mounting over the past several weeks. Opposition MPs during the debate in the House, which is going on at the moment, have also been echoing the message because they believe that the government misused the state of emergency. Instead of using it to fight the coronavirus, they faulted the government for abusing the power it has to silence political dissent. So this is the one major reason why the opposition MPs want to see an end to the state of emergency. And today, a group of students and labor activists made a direct plea to the government to lift the state of emergency. The demand was made in an open letter addressed to the Prime Minister, and which they submitted to the government's complaint center. And in a later interview with the press, the students said the state of emergency has been abused by the state authorities to harass people critical of the government. So this is one of the activities that we have been seeing going on in the past few weeks, that people making louder demand for the state of emergency to be lifted.
Yes, so what's going on inside the parliament, they really have to pay attention to what's the issue of the main concern for people outside of the parliament. During this House debate, today is the second day, and let's take a look at what the opposition camp has raised their concern during this House debate. The first one, Kun Thepchai, state of emergency abused to silence political dissent.
This is a point that was hammered on repeatedly by a series of speakers from the opposition bloc, because they know that this is a weak point of the government, because they know that a lot of people out on the streets are not happy with the current state of things, especially with things under the state of emergency. People are quite unhappy with this measure. So the opposition for the past 2 days have been raising issue with this particular point.
And the second point, continuing lockdown measures worsening people's sufferings.
Of course, the opposition were trying to echo people's concern about the way things are going under the lockdown, because a lot of businesses are still not able to open, right?
Yeah.
And millions of people are still out of jobs. So this is another major point that the opposition is trying to highlight in the 2 days of their debate.
Third point, large sections of poor people left out of rescue packages.
Of course, we have seen millions of people applying for rescue packages from the government, right? But the opposition tried to highlight the fact that many poor people, who are really, really poor people, have been left out because of the system that the government do not respond to the need of the people, especially the use of the online application for rescue measures, which a lot of people have missed out because they are not able to connect with authorities concerned. They don't have access to the online applications and online platforms provided by the government. And of course, there were also a lot of flaws on the part of the government in their registration of the poor people.
Another point of concern is stimulus spending plans under royal decrees lack specifics. This one has been very criticized a lot by opposition camps.
So even government MPs also raised this issue a lot, because maybe because of the pressure for time, the government has not been able to really come up with a convincing plans of action. So the opposition has been trying to point out that there is, a very, big, major lack of specifics in the plans to use the money under the stimulus package.
Plan of action is what they really want to see, want to know more in details. And the last point, it needs for mechanism to ensure transparency and accountability in spending. So overall, that's the point of opposition camps.
That's right. No, but one important point that the opposition has also been talking a lot about is the extension of the school holidays. We all know that all schools will not reopen until the 1st of July. That is another month away. And the opposition, first of all, they claim that the extension of the holiday is depriving students of their needed education, right? And secondly, they believe that the government has mismanaged this issue all along. And because the government is too concerned about the health respect of the pandemic, and to the point that they overlook the need for the students to go back to school. And of course, they claim that they are speaking on behalf of millions of parents who feel very uncomfortable having to take care of their kids at home instead of having them studying at schools.
As of now, the Education Ministry has specified that the new semester date is on the 1st of July.
Yeah.
So we have to wait and see whether they will shorten and change the new semester date. And when we take a look at the global perspective of COVID-19, Kun Thepchai, right now the epicenter has moved to Latin America. But the situation in the US is still quite a cause of concern around the world, especially on the reaction of President Donald Trump, the way he communicates with Americans and around the world on how to handle the situation. And let's take a look at previous statements he made on coronavirus and see how it has been different from the past up until present.
As of now, more than 100,000 people across the United States have died from the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University. 4 months earlier, President Donald Trump compared the coronavirus with the seasonal flu.
Here, 35,000 people on average die each year from the flu. Did anyone know that? 35,000. That's a lot of people. It can go to 100,000, it could be 27,000. They say usually a minimum of 27, goes up to 100,000 people a year die. And so far, we have lost nobody to coronavirus in the United States. Nobody.
On March 11th, President Trump addressed to the nation, imposed restrictions on European travel, called for unity, and asked people to set aside partisan differences.
My fellow Americans, tonight I want to speak with you about our nation's unprecedented response to the coronavirus outbreak that started in China and is now spreading throughout the world. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic. This is not a financial crisis. This is just a temporary moment of time that we will overcome together as a nation and as a world.
And a few days later, he declared a national emergency over coronavirus.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency.
On March 30th, President Trump told reporters the reason why he downplayed the severity of the situation.
What do you say to Americans who are upset with you over the way you downplayed this crisis over the last couple of months?
The statements I made are, I want to keep the country calm. I don't want panic in the country. I could cause panic much better than even you. I would make you look like a minor league player. But you know what? I don't want to do that. I want to have our country be calm and strong and fight and win, and it will go away. As Americans.
Trump's tendency during his 3 years as president has been to punch back against his critics.
I guess I'm doing okay because, to the best of my knowledge, I'm the President of the United States, despite the things that are said.
Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world, and maybe that's a question you should ask China. Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it specifically to anybody. I'm saying it to anybody that would ask a nasty question like that.
That's not a nasty question.
Please go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay.
That's very clear tension between the US president and reporters who has to cover COVID-19, especially with Chinese look reporters. So what's going on between the US, China, and the latest situation in Hong Kong, especially about the bill, national security law, that has already passed in the National People Congress in China. And right now, Kun Nat Bunak is joining us for this story. So what's the latest, Kun Nat?
So we gotta say that today is not a good day for Hong Kong at all because
the Chinese parliament actually approved a decision to move forward with the national security legislation for Hong Kong. So a little bit of a recap, this new law, the new security law, will be aimed at tackling secession, subversion, terrorism, and foreign interference in the city. So as you can see right now, the atmosphere in the parliament, everyone in the parliament was giving a big round of applause because those who are in favor of the bill has won the absolute majority with 2,878 votes who voted for the bill, and only one person voted against the bill with 6 abstentions. The details of the law are expected to be drawn up in the coming weeks, and it is also expected to be enacted before this September. And at the same time, this is what you're seeing in Hong Kong. The violent protests are still going on, which are both rooted from the new security law as well as yesterday's Chinese national anthem bill.
Of course, because protesters are not happy at all with this new law that has already been passed because it will be applied to Hong Kong.
Yes.
And what's the reaction from Carrie Lam?
Okay, so Carrie Lam mentioned in her own statement that the law will not affect the rights and freedoms enjoyed by Hong Kong residents, and the government of Hong Kong would fully cooperate with China to complete the relevant legislative work as early as possible. So you can see here that the Hong Kong leader is willing to comply with the new bill here.
Yeah. And the reaction from the US is interesting, though not unexpected, right? A very strong reaction. I mean, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, made it very clear that with the passing of the new law, the national security law, Hong Kong now cannot be considered autonomous from China.
Yeah.
And this is what he has notified the Congress in the US. And that means that now the law which was passed last year, the law on freedom and democracy, human rights and democracy for Hong Kong, certainly will be used, because the law, is a law that accords Hong Kong special status in trade with the US, separated from mainland China. So certainly, this law will be put to good use.
Definitely. And to what the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, has said, that Hong Kong will no longer be qualified for its special status under the US law. That means Hong Kong will no longer receive economic privileges from the US anymore. The possible responses that might be in use, which is speculated by those who are familiar with the subject, may include suspending preferential tariff rates for exports from Hong Kong to the US. Others might include visa and economic sanctions, or even targeted sanctions against the Chinese officials, the government entities, and businesses that are involved in enforcing the new legislation here. So this will definitely affect Hong Kong's status as the financial hub.
So this is certainly one of the worst case scenarios that we have been predicting as a result of the passing of the law. So that means that the tensions both in trade and politics between the US and China from this point on will certainly keep on rising, and the effect certainly is something that will all of us in the region will feel.
And we can feel that the tensions between the US and China are heating up ever since the trade war back last year, and with the COVID-19 blame game, and now the situation in Hong Kong. Things are getting even worse between US and China with its relationship here.
Yeah. And lately, they even argue in the UN, aren't they?
Yes, they did sort of argue at the United Nations. So the new conflict between the United States and China is that the US actually requested a Security Council meeting with China over this proposed new security bill here, but China has refused to do that. This is because China believes that this meeting is baseless or unreasonable, because the national security legislation for Hong Kong, it's more of an internal matter, nothing to do with whoever from other countries.
Yeah.
And the U.S. mission to the UN said that the issue at the beginning, they said it was a matter of urgent global concern that implicates international peace and security. So that's why they really need that meeting. But China refused because they think it's none of their business to keep it short.
Yes, certainly, China wouldn't want Hong Kong issues to be internationalized in the way that the Americans want.
Yeah.
And I think that will be a sticking point for the relationship between the two countries.
Yeah.
For at least until the upcoming presidential election in the U.S. toward the end of this year, right?
Yeah. China card is always Trump's card, especially during the running up to election.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Kun Nat.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Kun Thepchai, with the boxing stadium or sports stadium, which are in Thailand still under consideration whether it will be relaxed in the third phase. But in Japan, they seem to have their own solution of having remote cheering system for sport fans. Let's take a look.
A Japanese audio maker has developed a system using a smartphone app that allows sports fans to cheer players from home. Yamaha company tested their system at Yamaha Stadiums in Iwata City. The stadium is home to J-League football club Jubilee Iwata. Users tap cheers and clap and alter buttons on their smartphone app, and the sound is blasted on speakers around the stadium. And fans can also broadcast their voices through the speakers. The company is asking pro baseball and football team in Japan to introduce the system. Japan's pro baseball season will start on June 19 after a 3-month delay due to the coronavirus pandemic. J-League matches has been suspended since last February, and the league has yet to announce when they will resume.
画面の向こう側にいるファンやサポーターの声を現地で響かせるということで、なかなか会場にも行けないというサポーターの方も。
The company's engineer, Setoyuki, says that cheering encourages both players and fans. Our team hopes to make the system available next month. Games will be played without spectators for the time being to prevent the spread of the virus.
That's quite creative for fans to get in touch with their sport player and how they can cheer on with the game.
That's right. Back in Thailand, when we talk about the third and fourth phases of the easing of restrictions, right? The one big question is, will the boxing stadiums will be allowed to open in these one or the two phases or not? So the question was put to Dr. Thavi Sin, the spokesman of the anti-COVID-19 center today, and his answer was quite clear that this is pure rumor, and there's no plans yet to allow boxing stadiums to reopen. And in the absence of boxing matches, Kunata, one thing that still is interesting is that one of the best-known boxing jargons, "Don't let your guard down," has been used on a daily basis. No boxing, but yet boxing jargons are still much around.
Yes, and we have to comply with the sport jargon. Yeah. And Kun Thepchai, tonight we have very, very special night, special show called Social Business Show, in which we have leader, thinker in social business, social enterprise, especially Professor Mohammad Yunus, who is Nobel laureate and father of Grameen Bank, and two more thinkers. They would like to encourage the whole world to think differently after COVID-19, especially the term that they coined, no going back after COVID-19.
That's right. I think the message is quite clear that if we want to live in a new world, then we have to do something that make sure that we don't go back to the same old world again once this pandemic is over.
Yeah, and this forum has been jointly done by Thai PBS and UNO Center. So I would like you to enjoy this whole show and try to get a glimpse of what the leader, what the thinker think about going back society. Hello, good evening everyone. Welcome to Social Business Show, and this is very important session of panel discussion on redesign what will be post-coronavirus world. And please let me introduce myself. I am Natha Gomonwadin from the Thai PBS and co-host of today's panel discussion, Kun Thep Chayong. And today is part of working in cooperation between UNO Center and the Thai PBS. Kun Thep Chayong, please.
So as we all know that Thailand and the rest of the world have been waging a war against this scourge known as COVID-19. On one hand, governments are trying to save lives, and on the other, they are working on plans for recovery. But when they talk about recovery, they mostly talk about economic and business recovery. But we believe that there is one question which is not adequately addressed, but whose answer is very crucial to the world's future. And that question is, what kind of world do we want to go back to once this pandemic is over? And we believe that this pandemic, besides its devastating impact on the world, is offering us a great opportunity to rethink about our own future. So today we have three distinguished speakers who will be sharing with us their ideas and vision on how we should take this opportunity, not only to move forward, but also to help redesign the world we want to live in.
Let me introduce our three distinguished guests who we would like to listen to their view of how to redesign the world after post-coronavirus. The first one, Professor Muhammad Yunus. This one doesn't need much introduction. We all know that he is founder of Grameen Bank and father of social business and microcredit. And he and Grameen Bank has been jointly awarded Nobel Peace Prize laureate. And he is constant, innovative, and being told that he is one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time in March 2012. The second one, Dr. Pipat Yodpritikan, chairman of Thai Pat Institute. He is co-founder and chair of business strategy, UNOS Thailand. His corporation leads the operation since it was founded and had delivered more than 300 engagements in research, training, and consulting with multilateral corporation, state enterprise, and major listed companies in Thailand, especially working on CSR, corporate social responsibility. The last but not least, Mr. Han Wright, founder and managing director of Grameen Creative Lab, creative director, UNO Center. He is committed to the development of social projects worldwide as a creative consultant of Nobel Prize winner, Professor Muhammad Yunus, and he has helped spread the idea of social business 2007. So that's our three distinguished guests. Kun Thep Chai.
Yes, we would like to start with Professor Yunus. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's right. On the lighter note, Professor, we know that everyone on this planet is being affected by the pandemic one way or another. So how about you? How has your life been changed? I mean, because of these shutdowns and these social distancing measures.
Well, just like everybody else, we are pushed into our rooms, our homes, distancing from everybody else, distancing from neighbors, distancing from our physical distancing from outside world. So this is one part of my life right now. Another part is I'm still on the online talking to people, like now I'm talking, and almost every day I have some online event and speaking there, talking to students, talking to faculty, talking to organizations. So that keeps me busy on that side. And also we are organizing all our social businesses in Bangladesh to address the problem of coronavirus, to bring healthcare to the poorest people, to bring online healthcare for the poor people, and food for the people who don't have food right now. We are providing equipments to the hospitals, and also the protective personnel gears, gowns for the doctors, which is not available, and the masks in a large quantity all over the country. We produce those masks, we produce those PPE, and give it to doctors, hospitals, nurses, and so on. So we keep ourselves pretty busy.
Okay, very glad to know that you have been very active. So on a more serious note, Professor Yunus, you have been very loud and clear in your message in your recent opinion pieces in various newspapers. No going back. So tell us why we shouldn't go back to the same old world that we used to live in.
Yeah, well, that world is terrible world. We are lucky that for the time being that has kept in pause. It's not harming us at the moment. There's no global warming contribution by that world because the whole machinery has collapsed. The engine has closed down. So our air is cleaner. We are very happy, and global warming stopped. We can see the results in many directions, and wealth concentration to that extent has stopped also. So all the things which were pushing us into a danger point and a disaster point has stopped because of the coronavirus. And now the question is, when the coronavirus is over, when the pandemic is over, should we go back to that point? And my answer is, no way. This will be suicidal. Why should we go and commit suicide? We are at the suicide. We don't want to go to the stage where we destroy ourselves. That's the point we are in. So our point is how to redesign the system so that we don't have to go back ever, not just for this time, ever we don't go back. In the meantime, we create a completely new world with the world that we always dreamt about, of sharing, of caring, and being together in a peaceful way, and so on. And I give the example of a city, a big city, suddenly hit by an earthquake, and a huge earthquake. Everything collapsed. Nothing in the city now stands. Now the citizens of the city who survived will be asking the question, should we reconstruct this city? And if we do, how should we do it? Should we take the old blueprints and build the city as it was? Or we'll build a city that it should be? Now that we got a chance to redesign it in the way we feel comfortable with the city. So this is a choice now. And this is exactly the same situation with coronavirus gave us. It's a mega opportunity. And that mega opportunity to redesign the world that we saw coming to an end in a disaster, big disaster. So we don't want to go back to that path, which is coming to the finishing line. So why should we go to the finishing line when we have a chance to redesign it, go completely different way, and do all the fixing that we felt is needed to be done at this time? And this is the time when coronavirus is still on, with the deepest of the crisis, we can come up with the brightest of the ideas. Imagination can come, our ideas of what can be done, we share with each other and prepare ourselves so that when the whistle blows for start, and we are prepared to do that. That's the point.
Professor Yunus, who do you think you are addressing this message to in particular?
Anybody who lives on this planet. This applied to everybody. It's you, me, person on the street, student, children. You remember the teenage people, both in Bangkok and everywhere else, were demonstrating Fridays for Future, that they're accusing us, the adults, the grown-ups, that you destroyed our life. They're just making their parents, their grandparents responsible for destroying their life. What a terrible accusation that parents can have from their children. But they were doing that, and publicly every week. And wherever they went, they thought that we are not taking the decision we need to take. We are avoiding our responsibility. So their children will be very happy now to design that world that they will not hurt. And we are asking the question, what about our grandchildren? These are their children. Do the grandchildren has any chance to come to this planet at all? So those questions has to be resolved right now.
No going back, that's the main message from Professor Yunus. What about you, Mr. Bright? How do you see? Is this the only way to go after post-coronavirus?
Yeah, Professor Yunus just made it very clear. When looking back, we had a meeting on the 9th of February 2020, where we discussed in a huge range about the loss of biodiversity. 70% of insects are gone. It was a big shock. We saw that the forests all over Europe is heavily attacked. We have 10 rivers in the world who pollute 80% of plastic. The 9th of February 2020 was a shock for all of us. Now what we have is we have a common experience together. We have one opponent together. Now we have a common interest. We have an experience together. It hits us really hard. It makes us as equally to rich and poor. It is for all of us, like tuberculosis or like cholera or like in the past. And all what I say, this cholera and tuberculosis and COVID, we have now a new name for these diseases. That's never something good in it. But every time when life and death teach us how fragile life is, then we come together, we have a higher social conscience. And this is where, when we say goodbye to the children who lost, parents who lost, this is the moment where we think how valuable they are. So no step back anymore in this egocentric world. No going back anymore in the self-interest of the system.
I'm sure not everyone on this planet are on the same page, and probably many of us still want to be back to the same old world as we know it, and people are not ready to redesign. What would you like to tell them?
100% sure, this normal is not good for us, for you, for anybody. This normal was on the way to kill the beautiness. We are from Thailand. The most important moment in my life was when I entered a beach, a clear natural aspect in '87. It was a beautiful kiss from the nature. My grandchildren never ever can touch a clean up beach. It's all full of contaminated from plastic. I don't want to pass a world over like this. We have to stop it. I'm completely agree with Professor Yunus. We have equally, everyone, 8 billion people means 8 billion creative beings. Every one of us has an infinity power of creativity. He can take care about himself, and then I can take care about you. And this taking care about you, this social aspect, this is what we have to now unleash, and we have to trust in ourselves. We are not helpless. If we work together, bring all your problems, every single problem, bring it to Professor Yunus, bring it to me, we can solve it.
Hans, we were talking earlier off camera about how Germany became one of the first countries in the world to have this unthinkable event, the soccer match, right? So that means that many people in Germany are so eager to go back to normalcy, right? So how would you, get this message across to for example, people in Germany?
Yeah, no, first of all, I think we need to play. The playful spirit is for our children who are in a very important. I think the children need to play to understand the situation. I don't know if we need it at the moment to play for money. There's no doubt to play. Every one of us under this hard pressure should overcome the misery also with a playful spirit. We should play music. We should play, even sometimes allow us to forget all our problems and to just play for an hour. Take painting, make something, music. But playing for money at the moment is something what we should say to do. What I see, we have good clubs, very good clubs, who play and share the money for others. So I see good professional jobs, like all that they are having now a solidarity. So we should be clear. If we play to respect the playful spirit, and it's a very important aspect to play. But to play for money at the moment is a little bit ridiculous because we have neighbors who have nothing to eat in Africa, on the planet.
What about you, Dr. Pipat? How do you see impact from coronavirus? And what do you like to see the world going to different direction?
Yes, I think everybody are already aware that the coronavirus has challenges all the ecosystem in the world. economic system has been challenges, social system has been challenges, and also the environment system has been also been challenges. So we are no doubt that the coronavirus has affected all people in all the world. So what I try to figure out how the picture of the next normal or the new world that we are facing. I think the foundation of the system that we used before has to be transformed. And in the business perspective, if we can see the way that the corporate now helping the society after the corona situation, we see some of the three phases. The first one is a response phase. You know that every company right now has been contributed to the society in many ways, formally by the contribution, donation, the philanthropic event. But the thing that I have been seeing and also noticing that some companies also try to use the new way of thinking, and social business is one of the solutions. Instead of bringing all the resource and giving to the society, they now try to shift or transform their core business and building the products and service to help all the hospitals, all the communities. This is the way, it's much like the social business way in terms of the Yunus definition. So I think the term of the no going back in the sense that we can see in the business perspective that the CSR from now on could be changed to the way that the social business will play the major role. That one that I see also in the Thai community as well. And after that, right now we are coming into the second phase. We might call the recovery phase, that now companies try to recover from the situation and try to back to the normal. And Kunata, you may also face the experience that today when you go to shopping, go to department store, it's not the same anymore, right? So this is the thing that we have to change our behavior. So I think that in the recovery phase, we could not use the similar or the same way as we familiar in the past, and we'll move on together in the future. So I think this is a challenging issue that all companies, all business in Thailand and all over the world, we have to find a solution. And in the next 3 or 4 months from now, I think we are coming to the resilient phase that the people, business and society try to find a way that how we can keep ourselves resilient. So what I see that the term that we are using very frequently in the business, that's called sustainability. Like Hans says that we prove already that once corona virus has been affected us, the people, the companies, the business also not be sustainable. So the term sustainable in my definition, as I see before, might have been changed from now on. The resilience might be the term that could replace the sustainability, but I don't have any decision yet in my mind that how we can figure out the next terms of the sustainability in the future.
Dr. Pipat, long terms, how do you think this message of no going back would resonate with Thai people who have a reputation of a short attention span?
We could not refuse that to move forward. We will set ourselves zeros. Of course, we have to use our equity from the past. We have to use our asset. We have to utilize our expertise. But all of that, we have to make it clear that we will need some transformation process to do that. So in the Thai context, what I think, even Kun Thepachai may notice that on the political system right now is also might not be function to cope with the corona crisis or situation right now. So this one, I could see that even on the politicians, on the NGO side, or on the community level, we all together have to find a new way or find a solution that how we can live on or move on together in the Thai society.
What about you, Professor Yunus? how could you like to move the world together to the direction of no going back? What's the action?
The action is very simple, really. It's just individuals making up the mind that I don't want to go back. It's not the United Nations decision or anybody else's decision. It's my decision, and I will act accordingly. I will not do anything which I did wrong in the past. So I want to amend myself. Sounds like a big decision for individual, which it is right now. But we can make it easy for people to understand. Instead of making it a complicated thing as a theoretical academic thing, we'll simply ask the question, would you like to see your children have a decent and healthy life on this planet? If you do, then you have to make sure the world doesn't become warmer and warmer. Because today we are 1.5 degrees Celsius warm. Tomorrow it will be 2 degrees Celsius warm. And there is no, after that, there is no more point of return. We cannot go back and reduce it anymore. So up to now, we have still a chance to reduce the global warming. But after we exceed 2 degrees Celsius, we have no chance. So no matter what you do, you cannot do that. We are coming very close to the 2 degrees Celsius. We have to do something about it, just to protect your own family. Like you are trying to protect your family from coronavirus, you have to protect yourself also from the global warming for your sake. It's your family, not somebody else's family. It's your children. If your children don't have a chance, your grandchildren have absolutely no chance right from the beginning. So this is the opportunity we got that we can make it happen. Today, for coronavirus, we are wearing all the masks, protecting ourselves, that we do not pass on the infection, or we don't receive the infection. Those masks will not be useful in global warming. We don't know how to protect ourselves from global warming. There is no protective mechanism. There is no medicine for global warming. Today we are talking about vaccine for coronavirus. This gives us some consolation, some relaxation that sometime probably it gives a hope that someday we'll have a corona vaccine and it will be available, and I'll take it, my children will take it, my family will take it, and we'll protect ourselves from the coronavirus. But global warming doesn't have a vaccine. Global warming will come and just destroy.
Yeah, my question is for all three of you. Whether we like it or not, I mean, it is undeniable that to succeed with the changes for the world that we are talking about, we certainly need cooperation and support from government leaders, right? So how would you address this message to these people? I'm sure that there must be some visionary world leaders out there who certainly agree to this kind of a suggestion that we shouldn't go back to the same old world. But how do we get these people, I mean, to sit down and talk? Maybe we need a forum, global, regional forum for these leaders to sit down and talk about it together, like they did with economy, businesses. So I'll start with Hans then.
Okay, well, Professor Yunus just mentioned, what it means for me. Yeah. So, and from my personal conscience, what I have to do. That means the same on the big business. If I look to the big business, as you know, I'm working together with huge corporations like Volkswagen or others. And I think, remember why we have a stock cooperation. The stock cooperation was done because challenged as a nature in Germany 200 years ago, we need a coal to overcome the winter season. So we put us together and we see how we can share the loss for the first 30 years. So we didn't have a better idea at this moment about just bringing coal out. So, but it was done for the business community with the family Haniel and with Thyssen and with Bosch to say how to overcome the biggest social pressing needs. Later on, this speculative power comes in this business. And this is the whole problem. We have a speculation in everything. The Amazonas, what Professor Yunus are just telling, is a speculation on gold as well. We're burning down the Amazonas. Yesterday I saw the report to have more gold because gold price going up. We don't need more gold. We need more renewable energy. So now we're staying on a tipping point of turning around the system, an energy system, in a self-controlled energy producer. I can produce my energy. I can share it with you. So now we need all the big resources what we have, and we will spend in Europe 2,000 billions of money into the society. So money is not a problem, we have it. So now we need the personal attachment, design our big businesses behind, new stock corporation. There is no profit gearing. We need a profit to reinvest in profit. But we should do the big business now in the full social business. So not talking about millions and billions of business, put the billions behind, make a renewable energy behind, a caring, a joyful, a playful, and education. One of my ideas is take 500 billion and educate people all around the world. Let them go for 1 or 2 years in school. ABC, let's begin new. It's an ABC of sustainability, of caring, of farming, of everything. So the idea that you give us from Asia, during this moment from Professor Yunus, is an infinity exchange between Asia and Europe. 75 years after the Second World War ends, I feel my generation feel very thankful that there was a generous mind to let us be part of the world society. We now have to see learning again from the caring aspect from Asia, then a single individual can make it, but in a way of a social context. But let it do big. Let's make it big business now, turn around into a social conscience-driven business.
All right. Dr. Pipat.
Yes, I think I see the changes happen, although it might not be the first or the disrupt one. But last year, we heard that the World Economic Forum also announced the Davos Manifesto, that telling the public that the leaders on the corporation will change their focus from the return from the shareholder to the stakeholder. Even in the United States, there are also some of the forum that's called a Business Roundtable, consists of the 167 CEOs that agree to sign on the agreement that they are now shift the focus from the shareholder to the stakeholder as well. So this kind of similar changes happen all over the world. And in Thailand itself also has some movement as well, that we see many listed companies in Thailand also try to implement and also try to adopt the ESG thing, that stands for environmental, social, and governance issues. So we see the pace that is moving, but it might not be fast enough that we would like to see. So what will happen now that I think from the Professor Yunus that telling about the individual itself that can change. So right now, all of us together, even on the media side, how we can contribute and also push some kind like what they call the collective action to all sectors, political, government, NGO, community, and try to find a solution that if you want to move this faster, how can we do this? So I think we are not like hopeless in the world after Corona crisis, but we see the light that we can move and push this thing faster.
All right. Professor Yunus, you have to admit that what we're talking about is not something that individual countries can accomplish, right?
Individual countries can accomplish a lot, give leadership, and because the world is interesting. They wait for somebody else to do something that inspires them, and they follow it. And it's also within the same country it happens. You don't have to convince everybody. Even if you can have a way to convince the key people, they influence other people. And immediately, if you're doing something, others follow you because they admire you, they like you, and they want to see if you're saying it must be right. So that's very important. People are on the threshold of change. It's not that we are bringing them from the prehistoric days to today. It's not like that. What we are saying, that conversation is on at every level. Some finds it convincing, but not able to do it because of the limitations of, they don't want to go out of the way for his neighbors, for the business community they belong to. coronavirus has given an opportunity. Things that you didn't want to do it then, now you are ready to do it because you have a good opportunity to do it. And you want to create examples you want to be hero to your children that you took the lead. You don't want to be seen a shy person trailing behind everybody else, your children, your family feeling not excited about the way you are doing things. People want to do things which makes them feel proud of. So this is the opportunity to make those decisions. And that's why it's important. When we talk about these things, I see lots of positive response. I get less negative response than I did before, because today they are in the listening mood and it's in the doing mood, because we have to do something. When we say no going back, it may sound an extreme position. Nothing will be. It will be a transition. It will not be suddenly from 0 to 100. From 0, you step by step go. Suddenly, everything will not be social business. But some social business that we do today, if you do 10 social business a year in Bangladesh, we move into 100 social business per year next year. Because now there's a tremendous, but still thousands of businesses are waiting. So gradually, these will impact on other people. So that momentum we have to create. And Hans has been talking to political leaders in Germany about this issue. And everything I hear from him, they don't dismiss him. They want to listen. They want to get some new papers and to see how it can be done. When we talk to the CEOs of big companies, we are not thrown away from their office. They invite us to talk. If you are inviting, that means they are willing to listen. We didn't knock at their door. They invited me and you to come and talk about it. And then they listen. And they don't say, okay, we'll do that. The fact that listen is working in their head. So this is the beginning, I think is most important. This opportunity you don't want to miss, so that we have this conversation. You don't see the result right away, but it will start working. Like this conversation, when it goes to many people to listen, you will not convert 100% of the listeners. But if you convert one person, just one, not percent, person, if you convert one person, you change the world. That's the process it goes. It goes by one person. That one person touches many other persons. And suddenly, this is a topic to discuss, topic to follow. So this is the initiation that we need to raise this subject. Talk to our friends, talk to our children, talk to young, talk to old, because nobody is too old to change the world. That has to be very clear, that just because I'm retired, I'm old, doesn't mean this is not my subject. This is your subject, because this is the world you created. So you have a responsibility to get involved and say, I did my fixing as much as I did the unfixing before. So now I did something to make it happen. So this is the message that we have to go around to make it happen.
The point is start doing it now. It may take some time, but we'll get there.
Absolutely. That's the first 1,000-mile journey starts with one little step. We are talking about that little step.
That's very correct, Professor Yunus. But what if government do not want to commit to this change? They don't have political will and leadership is not quite clear. What's the role of new generation that you see should pursue social business together?
That's where I make it very clear that I'm not talking about government yet. I'm talking about you and me. If we change our mind, government cannot be far away. We are not saying that everything is waiting for government decision. I'm not waiting for government decision. I'm waiting for my decision. If I want to start a social business, no government can stop me, because I'm not violating any law. Only thing I'm doing, I'm not taking profit out of my business. That is my privilege, and no government can stop that. So I'm not waiting for government permission. That's why I don't care what government thinks at the moment. But when I see that we are doing, I ask them, how come you are not opening the door for legal door to do this? We are not taking away anything. We're simply saying we need a legal space so that we can function, so that the other bureaucracy doesn't come and stop us because you are violating this, you are not getting this, you are not submitting this, those kind of things. So gradually it will happen. When it starts, people, Important thing about the government is if people have a mind, government cannot have a different mind. If it's a democratic government of any kind, the fact that people want it, government has to come and stand in front of them. Otherwise, their business is over. They know that. If they cannot stand before the crowd saying what the crowd wants to hear, their business is over. So that's why the government will come. Government, to my thinking, I think of government much later. I'm thinking about what I and you can do, what our business can do. I have a family-run business, for example. I can design my business any way I like. This is my choice. I don't have to go to the government. And if I want to create an institution, create a bank, I can do it in my own way. I want to create a social business bank. I follow the rules, I follow the principle, but I don't take any profit. I designed this financial services to the poorest people. That's how we created Grameen Bank. We didn't have to wait for anybody's permission to do that.
Professor Yunus, after reopening, after lifting of the lockdown, we see how chaotic it is in many, many countries. How do you like to tell people of no going back movement? Because people tend to forget things easily and perhaps they just forget about COVID-19 before we know it. What do you like to tell people?
I'll put it this way. Social business is defined as a problem-solving business without any intention of personally benefiting from it. This is a totally dedicated to problem solving. The day the world will open after Corona, they will be jammed with problems. In every direction you go, there'll be problems. And we'll bring solutions. And government cannot walk away from us. We are the only one who will provide them the solution, right solution. And they will buy it. There's no other option. That's what I'm saying. Let's design those things for them, that if you are facing this problem, we are the solution. For example, there'll be a lot of unemployed people because they lost their jobs. The shops are not opening, factories are not opening, they got financial problems, they got bankrupt, so people don't have jobs. Young people don't have jobs because the new business is not coming up. Old people who are already in jobs, they are not getting back to the job because the shops are not opening. We say we have a solution. We can make them entrepreneur. Let them start up their own economy. And we know how to do that. And all you have to do is to create a social business venture capital fund. You provide the fund and we manage the fund for you. And you see how results are. So we give them the solution. So government say, if you can do that, show me. If it works, I'll give everything you want. So this is just an example. And healthcare, there people are coming out of their homes of lots of problems, lots of health problems. They couldn't go to hospital, they couldn't go to doctors. Now they'll be jamming up all the medical facilities. We said we can take this extra care. We can create social business healthcare system. You just give us the sample, we'll do it and see how it works. It's financially sustainable. We can even return the money that you give us. That's how the whole idea of social business. Social business returns the investment you give, so it can run by itself. So government will see, or businesses will see how to help their employees who cannot come back to work anymore. So we said, okay, let's have a contract. We'll design something for you and we'll take care of all your employees who cannot come back so that they have at least decent way of surviving, not starving. So we come back with that. Social business is about ideas. It's about technology. It's about solution in a sustainable way. So we are coming back with that. So it's not something that we are preaching a theory and then go home and sleep. We are doers. We do things. We have to establish every day that we are problem solver, not by the logo that we are problem solver. We actually do it on the ground. A new problem comes, we get excited. How to solve this problem? In a social business way, not in a charity way.
So after listening to you three for an hour, I certainly would love to see my children and grandchildren growing up in the world that we are talking about. So what would you suggest to be the first concrete step, I mean, leading us to that word that we are talking about? Han, you want to start? Yeah.
We design something now, what we can make like a code, like a social code, for business on the social business aspects. And we present it now. And what we have to do on the first step is now, in the end of this month, on the 28th of June, there's the Social Business Day. We can't come together, but we can share our knowledge, our status quo, where we are, from New Zealand up to Japan, up to Thailand, up to the whole world can work for one day and explain where we are, where's our status quo, where the whole stuff makes us happy. So with the super network of Professor Yunus, with all this stuff, is on the 28th of June, share your knowledge, share your wisdom. Come from the praxis to the theory. Come and bring it to the people to share our knowledge. And then, when we understand where's our status quo, how to team up to make steps. So we designed something like different ideas, and Professor Yunus gives so many examples. It's very easy. The example of Grameen Bank is still an example who's super. We just have to replicate it in the right sense.
Dr. Pipat, for Thailand, what should be the first step?
I think we have already walked the first step since I joined Yunus Thailand. Actually, my experience, we practicing the CSR together with the corporates for many years. During the last 5 years, we already set up the ESG mutual fund for 5 mutual funds here in Thailand already. And what is happened is that we try to persuade the investor to contribute their returns to the CSR activities. But from now on, I think that after the corona situation, after lifting the lockdown, what I try to do is that I will come to transform those funds or even set up the new one that the return of those mutual funds can play the role to be like an investment in the social business thing. So right now, Yunus Thailand also working on that on both demand side and supply side. So I foresee that during a very short period from now on, we might see some of the cooperation between the investor and also the social business community in Thailand.
Professor Yunus, the first concrete step in the context of the post-coronavirus era.
The most important thing, as I said, is to make up the mind, whether it's an individual mind or it's an institutional mind or a government mind. Do you want to go back? And here we make a firm decision, no going back. Now, given that decision, everything else will follow. If you want to go back, you have your own path. So you will be following that path, and we'll tell you the dangers of that path and make you aware. See if you can still make changes. So this is an important thing. That's why it's important that we are discussing it here. And this will be shared with many other viewers who will listen, they'll think about it. And probably you'll be writing about it in newspapers and discussions and so on. Yeah. Like we're having this dialogue among ourselves. We can have a dialogue with the government policymakers, the bureaucrats, the political leaders. Dialogue. We're not saying you're wrong, I'm right. I'm not saying that. I'm just sharing an idea. That's not going to kill you. Either you like this idea or you don't like this idea. It's okay. But I want to make you aware of this idea. You may think about it. You may not 100% agree with me, but for the first discussion, you get 10% clear in your mind. 10%. That's clear. 10% is the door opening. That's very important, 10%. Then gradually you start to, hey, he said that. We discussed this before. Maybe this is the solution. Why don't I give him a call, see how he feels about it? So this is how it will start. So we need this environment right now because we are sitting at home and we have plenty of time. And AIT Yunus Center is doing a wonderful thing in that. They have launched a competition of social fiction. You don't have to be academically correct. Just say what kind of world you want. This is the time to think about that world. Yeah. Imagine a very wild world. Oh, it's full of chocolates, full of ice creams, full of everything, whatever you want. Think about a social fiction. You fictionalize it. And you do things that in normal way you cannot achieve it because either government becomes a barrier or the finance becomes a barrier or somebody else becomes. But in fiction, there is no barrier. Everything is under your control. So you fictionalize it. And the idea is, if the competition is gone, if it's done, many ideas will come. And someone will have a best prize that he has a beautiful fiction. But the fact that we imagine those things will, in fact, it will influence us. The fact that I saw it on television, talking about that fiction, it influenced me. And I said, why not? Maybe this would be a good idea to do that. So we start thinking of that. All these scientific discoveries, scientific inventions are done because of the science fictions. In the science fiction, you wanted to go to the moon. You wrote books about science fiction and so on. You went to the space travel and science fiction, long before we have done that. So the fact that we did it in our mind and in our imagination, wrote books about it, today we actually do it. Because imagination led the way. Imagination triggered everything. So that's what we are inviting. Imagination is very important. So let's imagine, let's have a fiction about it before we can make it into reality.
Great food for thought from our three panelists on this no going back and post-coronavirus world, Kun Thep Chai.
That's right. So I wish three of you healthy and safe, right? So you have the physical and mental strength to fight for this new world we're talking about.
We have to. We'll do that. We'll do that. You'll be with us.
Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. And we know that the next step, we have to make a decision and change the world without going back to the same old world. Thank you very much, Professor Mohammad Yunus, Dr. Pipat Yod Puttikan, and Mr. Hans Bright. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of this social business.
Bye-bye. Keep it bye-bye.
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 In times of crisis,
It's been a nightmare.
what you need is accurate,
COVID-19,
up-to-date, and in-depth information.
This virus will be with us for a long time.
And in this most challenging time, when the whole world is being ravaged by the most frightening pandemic, there is no easier way to stay informed than to stay home.
Hello everyone.
Welcome to Thai PBS World Tonight.
And stay with us. Thai PBS World. We bring Thailand to the world.